Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. And we told you we will keep sharing life experiences. We have another amazing guest, Shamir Lorde. We're going to ask him to come up and introduce himself. And as you know, City said going to kick off that first question. Welcome, Shamir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate y'all for having me. My name is Shamir. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm an entrepreneur, chef, clothing designer, coach. That's really about it. Veteran. That's really it. That's everything in one.
Well, thank you again for being here with us this evening. As we do with all of our guests, we like to start off at your beginning, kind of your origin story, as we would call it. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up, your home structure, relationships with siblings, family, parents, and if you experienced any trauma at that point in your life.
Let's see. So I grew up to a single mom. My mom is from Barbados. My mom came to the United States when she was 16. So I'm first generation American. I'm the only child. My dad really wasn't in my life. He came in and out. I really started seeing my dad when I was 16. Growing up, my mom used to say, well, your dad doesn't claim you. He says that you're not his kid. But if you see my dad, I look exactly like my dad. I grew up seeing my mom work hard. She even used to take me to school with her. And I always knew in my life that I wanted to do something that helped people. And I also knew I didn't want to live the way that we were living. We lived in the hood. So my mom lives in apartments, but like right across the streets is projects. So growing up in New York is like one of those places where you have to have thick skin, but thankfully, like my family is Caribbean, so they are very unfiltered. So they will just tell you what it is, like it is. And growing up, my mom was kind of one of those people where the discipline, I feel like it was a little too strict. I know that she didn't want me to make bad decisions, but it was kind of a little bit too strict. And I ended up wanting to get out of that situation of being in New York and just trying to make a living. So I decided to join the military, and that kind of gave me the structure that I needed. And then once I got out the military, I started my career as a chef because I also love cooking. And yeah.
Okay. I want to go back really quick and ask, with your dad being in and out of your life, how did that make you feel?
Not good at all. As a kid, you see everybody else with their parents, and you see them with their dad, and then you kind of wonder, why can't I have that relationship, or why wouldn't you want to be there for your only seed? Like, I'm the only kid that my dad has, and his wife was kind of the person, like, at a certain point in my childhood who was like, yo, you need to go see your kid. Like, you need to spend time with him. And it wasn't until I was in college, he actually hit me up and said, I want to spend time with you. I feel bad for not being there. I said, well, that's kind of on you. Like, I forgave you a long time ago for what you did. So it's up to you to be the parent. And then, like, after that, we did some workouts at the gym, and then he just kind of disappeared. So my uncle was my dad growing up, my mom's brother. He basically taught me how to ride a bike. He taught me how to skate. Like, I mean, at times I felt bad about my dad not being there, but I got to the point, like, I really just don't care.
Now, just from you, just kind of telling what it was. You said he was married. Now, was that while you or him and your mother were involved, or were they in a relationship of their own? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why did he choose not to be around? If there was ever the answer to that.
I can't really say why he chose not to be around, but him and my mom had their own relationship. And I guess like years later, he ended up getting married. So I'm not really sure why he chose not to be there. But what was funny was his dad ended up reaching up to me via YouTube because he saw one of my videos and told me he was like looking for me like 3 years. But the funny thing was he wasn't in my dad's life either. So I feel like if you're not really taught how to be a father, it's kind of hard to be a father. But I feel like when you see an example of what not to be, then you should be doing the opposite. If you know how it feels for somebody to not be there, to not show up for you, like why would you do the same?
Ask your dad. You ever ask your dad why he wasn't there? Did he ever give you a answer?
The only thing he said was that he just felt bad because so much time had passed of him not being in contact with me. He just said he felt bad for not being there, but he never explained why he wasn't there or what his reasons was.
And what was, the relationship like between your parents in general? When he did want to come around, was it amicable or, were they giving each other a hard time? How did that, work out for you? Or what were you seeing, as a child experiencing with that?
So my mom didn't really deal with him at all too much. So it'd be like, all right, your dad wants to see you, and then my dad will come pick me up, and then we would go to his house in Brooklyn, in Bedside. But they didn't have any relationship whatsoever. It was like, oh, if you want to talk to him yourself. Like, all right, you already know the number to call. Like my mom kind of stayed out of it, but she was very honest with me about what he said in the beginning. I don't know if she should have, but she was.
Now, did you ever ask him about what he said?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't.
Now, when you, I guess, kind of went off to the military, you said that you found structure. Was this kind of just like a, mental or emotional structure, or, were you getting in trouble before you went into the military? What was school like for you, being as though, single mother, father really not around? I know you had father figures, but, how did that, I guess, kind of affect you socially or emotionally, and therefore socially?
Um, my mom made sure, like I said, my mom was a disciplinarian, so I got beatings if I was ever out of line. So I went to school in high school with welts on my butt. You know what I mean? As far as wait, can you repeat that question real quick? Sorry, did I go on
No,
tangents?
just in general, asking if the absence of your father affected you, behaviorally, emotionally, because you said the military gave you
Yeah.
structure. How did you feel like you didn't have structure before?
So I felt like I had structure before, but as far as school, it never affected me as far as me acting out in school. Now I do what kids do. You know what I mean? At certain times when you're hanging out with your friends, you just act a fool. But I was never on that being disobedient as a kid or being disrespectful to my mom. Now, emotionally, yes, it bothers me because I always wondered, like, why wasn't he there? Why didn't he care enough to be there? Like, even with simple things as like his console systems. Like, my dad was a big gamer and he put a lot of money into games and sneakers. So to me, I always wondered, like, why was those things your priority? And as much as we get older, our parents get older. So why was it never important to you? Like, hey, I'm getting older. You know, I might die at some point. Why wouldn't I want to spend this time with my kids? So emotionally, it definitely affected me. But you know, what I mean, I just kept it pushing. As far as the military, I really joined the military because I was tired of being in the hood, and I was in a situation also because I had left my mom's house because me and her had got into it, and it was I knew some people who was in a gang, and I was at that point where it was my friend said, "Yo, I could get you blessed in," and I was like, "I gotta make a choice." I said this to myself: I either join the gang or I join the military, where I could get structure and I can also get paid and I could have some kind of stability.
Did you think about joining the gang? And if so, what were your thoughts around that?
I mean, I thought about it just because at that time, a lot of things seem cool at a certain point, but then at the same time, you already know that there's certain paths that everything can lead to. Because, my mom will have certain conversations with me like, everybody's not your friend, and you follow the wrong people, you're going to end up going down that same path. And then after a while, you start to see people actually going down that path. You see somebody, all right, now this person going to jail. You see those same people outside the liquor store hanging out. And then I got to the point like, yo, what's my life going to be like? You know what I mean? Once you get out of high school, you got to do something. It's not like, all right, there's more school so you could just chill and relax. Now it's like, all right, I got to make a choice. What am I actually doing at this point? So when I got the offer from my friend, because me and that person was tight, I actually thought about it, and then I was just like, I don't think I want to go down that path. I don't want to be dead or in jail. Like, and that was just being real.
So, what was the military like for you? What branch were you in? How long did you stay? And what did you pick up from that? Whether a positive experience or negative experience. Some people come in with bad habits, and leave with others. So, just let us know how that worked out for you.
Um, Honestly, it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Somebody screaming in my face, it really didn't bother me because, like I said, my mom put me through the ringer. I think the hardest thing was when I went to Afghanistan, because we were in a totally different place. And then even before we went to Afghanistan, we were in Germany. And it was like one of those things, like before I left, I had a friend who was like, oh yeah, you gonna come back with one leg. And it was like certain things, the unknown was a little bit scary because when I first got to my duty station, the unit that I was in, they was like, all right, we're going to deploy in November. I was like, God damn, I just got here. Now you about to tell me I'm about to leave and now I'm about to go overseas. It's like, man, I know it was a possibility, but I didn't know that would actually happen. And then I ended up getting moved to another duty station, but we ended up going overseas anyway. And when we got to Germany, I saw a kid who had to be like 9 or 10 years old, and he had a 9mm pointed at our van. And when I saw that, it kind of like it changed my whole perspective because you go, you see things on the news, and then it's one thing to see things on the news, and then you actually see it. Like you start thinking about life differently. Start wondering, like, man, what's really going on in the world? Man, these are the choices that I made. I would say one of the positives that I got from the military is being able to push through no matter the situation, no matter how difficult things might be when your back's against the wall. I think one of the worst things though for me is I'm too vigilant. Like when I went to the VA, the guy told me I was hyper vigilant, but it's like, yo, you teach us to be like that. So when I first came back from Afghanistan, and if you know anything about New York is dirty. So when you would see plastic bags that's like going in the street, I would start like mentally, I would have to calm myself down because when we used to go on the road, anything in the road could be an IED. So all those things could be a bomb in the road. So now I'm taking that when I come back home. So even now, like when fireworks go off, I gotta mentally tell myself, all right, yo, it's all right. It's good. Like I'm so hyper vigilant. It's bothersome. It's bothersome. I can't relax. I don't know how to fully relax.
So, what was the worst thing that you seen while you were in the military?
Somebody overdosing. In the military, you're not even supposed to be able to get drugs overseas, and somebody was found in their tent dead from an overdose, and then they told the family that they got dead during action. But yeah, that was probably like one of the worst things I've seen being out there. And another time when we were outside, because at one point we were training the Afghan army, and we actually had them draw weapons on us. Like they were literally drawing weapons on us. But the protocol when you were out there is you can't shoot unless somebody else shoot. So that would probably be the most traumatic thing, honestly.
And really quick question. You mentioned that they lied to the family. How did that make you feel knowing that they weren't being truthful to the family and they teach y'all to be truthful?
I mean, it just shows you what the government is. It's a whole bunch of lies. Everything that you think you know is not what you know. You know, everything that we do or everything that we put out there is propaganda. And it taught me not to trust anything. You know, you're taught, oh, this is your government, blah blah blah. We're gonna keep you safe, but at the end of the day, it showed me they don't care about you. You're just another body, and if you were to die, it would not matter. It doesn't matter.
So what was your exit from that? Like, were you injured? Did you complete your time? Did you, decide to leave? And if so, what kind of led you to the decision to leave?
So when we were overseas, we had the opportunity to reenlist, and I decided I was going to reenlist. But then there were certain things when I was over there. You start to see that it's almost every man for themselves. And when you get there, before you even go over there, is it you're responsible for your battle buddy. We're all battle buddies, so we're responsible for each other. Once it got to the stage when I realized it was okay, every man for themselves, that's when I was like, you know what? Let me try and get out of here and get a medical discharge, because that's when Obama was cutting the troops. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get myself a medical discharge and I'm gonna get my ass up out of here. And I started on the path to get a medical discharge, and they let me out with an honorable discharge.
So you mentioned you have PTSD.
Yeah.
How and I know you mentioned that when you come you see trash in the streets or just mentally it messes with you. Can you talk a little bit about how the PTSD has affected your life?
I don't feel like I could ever live a truly normal life. Even with trusting people, I feel like I can never really trust anybody. I feel like you always got to be on guard. You always got to watch what you say. You always got to think about who you talking to, because you don't know if somebody sent somebody, which is crazy to say. Like when we went to the grocery store, this guy, he saw my sticker on my car because it said Brooklyn, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been looking to get one of those." And it was kind of weird how he just pulled up on me, and my wife was like, "Yo, that was kind of weird." And it's like one of those things where it's like you don't trust any interaction that you have. Like every interaction I have, I low key don't trust. Like even if there's people that I'm close with, there's always in the back of my mind, yo, something could go left, and you got to be prepared if something goes left. Like I'm just in that state of always just paying attention. And sometimes it takes away from even being able to enjoy a moment.
When was, I guess, the first instance that you realized that there was actually a problem, or that fears and feelings and everything was actually kind of heightened? Because I know, just being from where you from, like you probably have more
Yeah.
situational
Yeah.
awareness than the average person. So how did you kind of make the distinction that, like, this not my norm, like something is up, and I need to address it?
Um, I think because my joy changed. When I was before the military, I felt like a more happier, a lighter person, and now I feel like it's definitely, I don't want to say dark, but it's definitely more aware, more serious. Like everything for me, it's just I'm always thinking, I'm always analyzing, I'm always going over something in my head, to the point where it gets to be like, yo, I really gotta learn how to shut this off, because it comes to a point where you start questioning everything that's actually happening. Like everything I'm doing, I'm starting to question. Every time I'm doing something, all right, am I doing this because of this? All right, why do I feel this type of way? Every time we go to a restaurant, I gotta sit where I could see the exit. Like my wife already knows. Anytime we go somewhere, she already knows where to sit, because now I need to see the door. I need to see where people are. I'm always looking like, oh, okay, is this person strapped? Because in Atlanta, you could just carry, and I'm always carrying, and I don't want to have to shoot somebody, but I'm always on guard because I already know shit go down out here. People are always constantly trying to try you, whether it be robbing, stealing. It's always something. So I feel like my heightened awareness is just more on steroids. Like in New York, you always got to pay attention, but I feel like I pay attention too much to the point of you could be judging somebody already and not even have no reason to. Like sometimes you will judge somebody and have no reason to.
I wanted to ask, you say you don't trust anyone. You trust your wife?
To an extent.
Okay, so what made you trust her to a certain extent?
So when we met, it was actually during COVID. So we met on Hinge app, and I guess the vibe and the energy was there. She was honest, and also she kind of understood me. So it was funny because I was at that stage where I was like, yo, I'm ready to settle down and I'm ready to actually build a family. And she was like, yeah, I wasn't trying to be with somebody unless they was actually ex-military, because her dad kind of raised her that way. So they used to clear the house, and she grew up in a loving family. And I always said, when I meet somebody, I want them to come from a loving family, two parents, and that's where she came from. And I felt like the way that she loved me, I'd never seen that kind of love before. That's what made me trust her. Like I've never seen that kind of love before that was so accepting. Like even when I told her things about myself that I hadn't shared with anybody, she didn't look at me any different, and she still like loved me the same and even more.
What was life like once you got out? I know some people, they don't bounce back well, run into health issues or, mental
Yeah.
issues. So what was it like for you? Were you able to acclimate back into civilian life, able to find employment? Like, was that a smooth transition or a rocky one for you?
Um, a little bit of both. So when I got out, I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do next, because now that was my paycheck and my paycheck was gone. So even though I was getting disability at that time, I was at 30%. So I was like, well, what are the things that I enjoy doing? So cooking was one of the things that I enjoyed doing. So I decided to go to culinary school when I was in New York. So I went to culinary school. I got my degree. I ended up working in different restaurants, and then that was actually when I made the transition to leave New York and I moved to California, because at that time I was also doing music. So I was went to California, lived out there, and I was cooking and doing music while I was out there. So it wasn't a hard transition per se, but it was still kind of weird because when you're in the military, everything is taken care of, whether it be your health. So I didn't know nothing about health insurance. So before I was in the military, I was on my mom's health insurance. So I didn't really know anything about insurance, how insurance worked, what to look for when I was getting insurance. So that was definitely the transition for me, was trying to figure out, okay, how do I now do all these things independently?
Um, you also mentioned, so I guess are you you kind of mentioned paranoia. Are you paranoid?
I don't want to say paranoid. I'm just super aware. But I definitely think that I already know the government is listening. So it's always a matter of, can today be the day that something I say cause me to lose my life? So if in that sense that I would be paranoid, then yeah.
So you feel like the government failed you?
I don't know if the government failed me or if I failed myself. Um, because we can't depend on the government to do anything for us. I think that's the one thing I learned in the military is that the government don't care about you. You're expendable. So at a point, it kind of becomes like, did they fail us? Yes, because they're supposed to care about their people. But when the truth came out that they didn't, I guess it was just like, it is what it is.
Now, was cooking like something you did on the home front, prior to kind of going into it professionally, or was it something that you picked up? And what about it kind of stuck in and made you want to fall into it as kind of a lifestyle or professionally?
Growing up, food was a major part of my life because my mom is, like I said, she's Caribbean, so it was a lot of curry chicken, mac and cheese. Like that. That's a staple of my childhood was the holidays and the food, and I learned how to cook from my mom. So that was like a part of who I was. Like that's still something I want to do is open up a restaurant and dedicate it to her because food is such an important part of my life and it creates memories that can help change people's lives. So that's definitely just a part of who I am.
Love that. Um, I want to go. What's next? What's your next event in life? I know you mentioned not on here, but for our conversation coming in, you went through a few stages of homelessness.
Yeah. So you're asking about the homelessness or what's next for me right now?
Yeah, the homelessness. Can you talk a little bit about that? A lot of people don't want to talk about being homeless.
Yeah, it's not a fun situation. So after, all right, so when I was in Cali, the roommate situation had ended up falling apart. So at that time, I was still working at the restaurant, but then I was bouncing between Airbnbs, and then it got to a point where the military money and the cooking money it really wasn't sustaining the Airbnb. So then I had to try to find VA resources so that somebody could help me find housing, and then I got to a place where I ended up finding housing. It was a all men's housing, and we all had a room. We paid rent, but even in California, the rent out there is still expensive, even with it being the VA. So I ended up moving around. Like I've lived in Maryland, Massachusetts, I've really been all over the place, living in Airbnbs. When I was in Virginia, I was working as a line cook, and then one of the chefs that I worked with, she felt bad for me, so she let me sleep on the couch, in her hotel room because I was working for Sodexo. And when you're high up in Sodexo, they end up paying for your room. So she was like, "Yo, you could just stay here." You know what I mean? She said, "Don't even worry about it." And then she ended up getting fired. So then I was really at a point where now I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, all right, so now I got to find an Airbnb where I can stay, and then I can only pay up to a certain amount. Man, being homeless, I can't even. It's so crazy that it's so far back that I felt helpless at that point. Like to come from being in the military to having like basically I would say having it made. You know what I mean? To having a good financial situation to now I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to sleep every night. Yeah, that was taxing. That was taxing, especially because I don't feel like I officially stopped being homeless until like last year. I feel like last year was like the last year that I was really officially homeless. So yeah, that was tough. That was tough.
Sorry about that. So, what was your break? What was what kind of catapulted you out of that? Um, because you did say it was recent. So,
Yeah.
what were the I guess factors kind of keeping you down, and what changed about those factors? To make you stable now.
So I guess it was really because I was married, so we got a dog. So it was me, my wife, and a dog. So when we first got to Georgia, we were staying with family. But then it got to the point too. I'm that type of person. Like my mom used to always say, "Don't get too comfortable, and don't overstay your welcome, and don't depend on anybody." So I felt like I didn't want to keep depending on other people. Then it got to the point where we were staying with somebody, and the situation that we were staying in wasn't ideal. It got to the point where we went from staying with her family to the person's house that we were staying at. We were in the hood. And I told myself when I got out of New York, I was like, I'm not trying to go back to the hood. And then once we were in that situation, I was like, yo, what am I doing? Like I got this woman with me, and I'm responsible for her. Like her parents trusted me with her, and we're sitting in this position. And even though she would be like, "Yo, I already know that you're gonna make it," it was like one of those situations like, "Yo, I can't keep living like this. I can't keep bouncing from place to place." So it was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna give myself 2 months. I'm gonna grind hard, and I got to the point I stacked up enough bread for us to move and get a townhouse.
Thank you for your honesty, because we really we want people to see this and to understand going through this, because a lot of men struggle in this area. Um, I want to ask, um, first, y'all were married during this time.
Yep, we was married during that
What
time.
what was it like being married and homeless and in a position of being a man? Did it make you feel some kind of way? And going through the PTSD, did that add more to your plate?
Well, first, like as a man, I felt like, yo, I'm supposed to be taking care. I'm supposed to be providing. I mean, I already know I can protect, but I should be providing a certain lifestyle. Like she didn't sign up for this. She didn't sign up to be moving from place to place and not be in a secure place. And the second half of your question was, oh, the PTSD. Yeah, so that definitely affects me because so now I can't even be in big crowds. So like I have a problem even being in certain spaces at certain points because my anxiety gets to be too much. That's why like when we were going through that situation, it got to the point of, yo, we gotta go out here and do it. Like as much as I hate being around other people, it's like, yo, there's a goal that needs to be accomplished, and she doesn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve it. I I promised her a certain life, and I'm not providing that life for her. So yeah,
And so, how did that make you feel as a man?
less than. Um, I didn't feel like I was doing my job, and I didn't feel like a man because I feel like as a man, I should have been taking care of my responsibility, and she was my responsibility, and I don't feel like I was taking care of her how I should have been taking care of her. So I didn't feel like much of a man at all.
How did the homeless situation kind of exacerbate your own issues? Like, you sleeping in kind of unfamiliar places. Just the anxiety of everything, not knowing what's coming, not knowing what's going. How did that kind of affect your already existing issues?
Because at that point I was sleeping with the gun under the pillow. Always being on guard. Every sound that you hear, now you just thinking what that sound was. It got to the point of the place that I was staying at, my friend's house. I was like, yo, we got to put a camera up because I need to see what's going on. It got to the point of like, yo, I'm very uncomfortable in the space that we're in because I told myself I would never be in this space again. My anxiety was honestly through the roof, through the roof. Like I was just like, man, I really hope I don't have to use my gun. Like I was in that state of like, yo, I might have to use it. I might have to use it, and always having to look around at the people around you and making sure like, hey, I know what's going on, because sometimes there's just some shady characters. You'll have people 12 o'clock walking past a certain apartment like 2 or 3 times, and it's like, all right, bro, what we doing at 3 o'clock in the morning? What we doing? So yeah.
So, how did that make the situation in the home of the friends that you were living with? Did it cause tension? How did they feel about the way you felt? You wanted security, you wanted more. Um, did it cause friction?
No, they were actually glad about the camera, and he actually jokes. He's like, "Well, at least now you could protect all of us. Because if something goes down, I already know that you got it." He didn't feel no type of way of me feeling that way, because he already knew I was military, so he knew my background and he knew how I operate. Like, he knew where I came from, so because when I asked where he lived, he was like, "Yeah, I live in a good neighborhood." And then when we got there, it was the hood. It wasn't it wasn't the suburbs. He lived in the hood, because he was like, "Yeah, I leave my door unlocked." And when we got there, I was like, "I can't believe this man leave his door unlocked. Like, he should be locking his door." So I mean, we were good. He didn't have no issues with us setting up a camera, because in the end, he was like, "Yo, I need to get my own camera." So we really didn't have no issues for real.
So what have you kind of formulated for yourself, to maintain, to probably, I'm sure you've thought time and time again about how to never be in that situation again. What's the game plan? What are you doing now to sustain yourself? And realistically, what could get you to goals that you are trying to meet?
So what sustains me right now is the disability. So during that time, I ended up getting with somebody who got my disability to, I think, 90% now. I think I'm at 90%. And so that really takes care of everything that I need plus some. So in order to, in addition to doing that, I also freelance doing AV. So I do audio visual. So when I was in Florida, I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in recording arts because I love music. So I freelance and I get paid good money doing that. So I do it whenever I feel like it. If somebody hits me and like, "Yo, can you do audio for the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." That's how I sustain myself with that. I also have a clothing brand, and I also help coach people. So the goal, honestly, would be to get more clients so that I can help more people, and then get to a space where I could actually do it on a bigger scale and help people get to where they want to be. Because my main goal has always been to see people live the life that they deserve to live. So now that I'm actually in a better position, like anytime I'm getting money, all right, boom, this is going over here. Because like you said, I really don't want to be in that position again. Like, me and my wife, we talk about it. And I'm like, "Yo, I'm not going backwards. Like, we can't even go back that way no more. Like, the next step at this point is to have a house that we own." So like those are the next steps.
And I want to ask, because you went through the homelessness, you went through everything. Do you feel as though getting support from the military was easy or hard? And I also hear a lot of folks say even trying to get a percent of the disability because the military comes through a percent. Do you think it was challenging getting that 90% of disability?
Oh, it was definitely challenging, but I think thankfully the lady who helped me, she was a friend of my wife's cousin. So she decided, like, usually she charges the money up front, but when I talked to her and I told her my story, she was like, "Yo, I got a feeling about you." She was like, "You know what? I'm not even going to charge you up front. You just pay me once you get your increase." So she ended up helping me, walking me through the steps that I needed to do, everything I needed to claim, because in the beginning I wasn't claiming my PTSD, I wasn't claiming my anxiety, because I didn't want that on my record. I didn't want people to know that that was an issue for me. Like, it was one of those things I wanted to keep to myself. But she was like, "No, you need to put down this, and this is how you need to say such and such. And when you go into these appointments, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to carry yourself. Because I smoke, so I smoke to help my anxiety. I help to my back because I have some serious back issues. And she's like, when you go in there, she's like, don't even smoke the day before. She was like, don't smoke at all. She's like, go in there with the problems that you have. And she was the one who got me to the 90%, and I actually still trying to get to the 100. So yeah, she changed my life, honestly.
That's wonderful. That's definitely wonderful. Um, what is, what most would say like the 5-year plan? What is most attainable to you right now? And then, from there, what is the kind of final goal, where, or the most perfect scenario where you would be the most comfortable, feel secure, be happy with what you're doing? Like, what is the perfect setup for you?
So 5 years from now would be having my wife not work at all. It would be to be a full time, not I don't want to say a full time coach, but to be coaching people constantly, to have a house, to have kids, to be able to see my kids grow up, to actually be there for the experiences, to not have to be like, yo, I have to be somewhere else, to miss those moments. Um, let's see, 5 years. Honestly, I want to be able to be in a position where I can give back financially. There's a lot going on with the youth, especially in the urban areas and especially in New York. And I feel like the way that we're going right now, we need mentorship. We need kids to see like, all right, I made it out of this situation. I don't necessarily have to be a rapper. I don't necessarily have to be an athlete. Like, we're not making it cool to be doctors, scientists, things of that nature. And one of my things that I already had like 10 years ago was to start a nonprofit where I could help kids, and you would get in, basically by your grades, and I will give you access to all the equipment that you wanted. Anything that you wanted, I will provide it for you. Like, I want to help the next generation actually have a path. I don't feel like school is for everybody. I feel like the things that we tell people, that's not for everybody. And also, the goalpost has changed. It used to be get a bachelor's degree and now you set. You get a bachelor's, a master's, now you're not even in the same field that you got your degree from. I want kids to actually do what they want to do. If more people were living the life that they should be living in their purpose, we will be in a better society. And I feel like the 9 to 5 is a scam, and I don't want to preach that.
I want to ask really quick because I'm going to ask that. Did everything that you went through marriage, you see a lot of people, they're not able to hold in. Did you go through challenges in your marriage trying to get back on your feet?
Challenges with each other or just challenges in general?
With each other in general? Did it cause rifts?
Oh yeah, there were definitely risks. Because it got to a point where it's kind of like, oh, well, you're not the same person I married. And then it will be like, well, you're not the same person either. So then it's like now having these conversations of trying to figure out, well, how do we rebuild? How do you get to that place where now we're loving each other the same way that we were in the beginning? Because I feel like when you go through certain situations, like for me, I tend to, and I know this about myself, I tend to shut down, especially like if I'm so focused on a goal. Now that's the only thing I'm focused on. Like, especially like when I was trying to get us out of that situation, like the only thing I was focused on was like, all right, how do I get us out of this situation? And now what I'm focused on is, okay, now how do I create generational wealth? How do I make sure that we're good for life? How do I make sure that I can retire my mother? Like, how do I make sure that I live the life that I want to live on my own terms. Like that was the challenge. And then it's also trying to push your partners to follow their own dreams, because I feel like at a point she kind of, I don't want to say put hers to the side, but I would say she wasn't pursuing it as hard as I felt like she should have. Like we would have conversations and I would say, well, this is your passion, this is what you want to do. And then it will be like, well, people aren't hiring me for this. And I'm like, well, maybe you should just do your own thing. And she's like, well, you're the entrepreneur. I'm not that type of person. I don't want to work for myself. I want to work for somebody else. So that's also like a thing that has caused the rift, because to me, I have that mindset. If somebody's not gonna make a way for you, you got to make a way for yourself. You got to make your own door, and then maybe at some point go to working for somebody else. So it definitely was an issue of feeling like, man, we're just not living up to the potential that we should be living up to, and then we're also not loving each other the way we should.
Do you guys have kids?
No,
No.
but that's like the next step at this point.
You said it's a what?
It's the next step at this point, because when we got together, I said it's a must. It's a must for me to have kids. Like that was one of the most important things in my life to have. Like I wanted to be a father. I wanted to pour that love into another human being.
Now with your I guess kind of, the drive that you have right now, everything you're doing to kind of keep y'all afloat, where and how do you think you'll find a happy medium, being comfortable enough to have kids? What will it take for you to be, feel comfortable enough to know that you can support your family? And do you have that anxiety at all? Or, are you just kind of taking it as if it happens, it happens, and we'll make sure they're all right when they heal? Or are you in, kind of a period of just forever planning and not sure when it's ever going to land? Like, what would make you most comfortable enough to have a child?
So I'm at a little bit of both. So I'm at the like, all right, you get a baby, we could still figure it out. But I'm also at the point of I'm already planning on things that I need to do in order to get us to a great place financially, to the point where we're not looking at bank accounts. So she's like, well, blah, blah, blah. You think we have the money for a kid right now? I said, well, that's 9 months. So many things could happen in 9 months. To think about from how long we were homeless, and in a matter of 2 months being able to change the situation in 2 months, 9 months, that's a lot of time to me. Like so many things can happen in 9 months. Like when we talk about, we only been here since last November, like because we moved in 3 days after my birthday, and now I'm about to do a TED talk. And mind you, that was one of my goals because I wanted to do speaking. That's one of the things. So now that's another thing checked off the list. So I set goals. So I already have like a note up here, like May 18th, 2027, gonna be a millionaire. So it's a matter of planning. It's a matter of putting myself out there, making myself uncomfortable, like being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And that's what this whole journey has been for me. Like doing the TEDx is definitely going to be a challenging situation, because now I'm putting myself in that situation of anxiety of having to speak about me being homeless, having to speak about, how nobody knew, because there's people who are going to watch this and they didn't know. Like I didn't even tell them. So there's a lot of my friends that don't even know at a point that I was homeless. So I don't want to say I'll be in the stage of forever planning, but I feel like even when you get to a goal, there's always a new goal to be had. But I feel like, yeah, by May next year is going to be a whole different situation, and financially we'll be able to relax.
And how long were you homeless?
Couple of years, basically.
That was with you and your wife together?
Yep. So about, I would say altogether, like two, from family houses to, staying with a friend.
Through that, did anyone ever make you feel out of place or belittle you?
No. Like I said, also because nobody really knew. The only people who knew like we were going through a struggling situation was her family and my mom. But nobody ever made us feel like she was like, yo, this is what family does, which was always, again, now that's kind of weird to me because my mom is not affectionate. My mom is not affectionate. So her family is super loving and super welcoming. And it's like, no, this is what family does. And it's hard to accept help when you're used to not getting help. And it's been instilled into you, don't get help, don't ask for help, don't get comfortable with people helping you. So yeah, nobody really made me feel bad, and the people who actually knew didn't make me feel bad. So it was a good situation.
I love that.
Absolutely. And I think that I'm out of questions. I dug deep already. I
Yeah, got
think
me
I
tearing up.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you're authentic. You're being very authentic. So it's good to see a male express how he feels genuinely, and you have the right. You're showing an example of men should be able to tune in with their feelings and emotions. So um, it's life, and more men
Yeah,
should
I mean, I feel
follow.
like we don't feel like we have the space to. You know what I mean? When you gotta be somebody's rock, it's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to cry. It's kind of hard to fall apart when somebody else is depending on you to hold shit together. And when you've been taught, like, all right, well, just suck it up and move on. Suck it up and move on. And that's kind of like how I get sometimes. That's why when I get so focused on a goal, I tend to turn my emotions off. So, and when I say turn them off, like everything is off. Like now I'm just focused on the goal. Like that's my main priority. That's my only priority, which is a bad thing in itself. So yeah.
I love it. So we're actually almost at time. I told you that hour's gonna go by fast. It goes by real fast. Um, Before we go, I want to ask you from your personal life experience, from a male's perspective. We're not therapists, we're not psychologists. This is based off personal life experiences. What advice would you give to someone that's dealing with PTSD, that's going through something, maybe in a position of being homeless and trying to get through and navigate through, and they're feeling down as a male? What advice would you give them to keep going, and just from your journey and your life experience?
Talk to somebody. I think that's the hardest thing we have is talking to other people about how we feel, because it makes us feel weak. And nobody can help you if they don't know what's going on, and you can't help yourself without getting help from somebody else. Sometimes, you know, a lot of times we try to do things on our own, but everybody needs somebody sometimes, and that just might be a time where you need somebody, and that doesn't make you any less of a man. To get the help, it actually makes you more of one to actually realize that you need help. So get the help, talk to somebody, and find outlets where you could release that pain and that anger. Find the outlets.
Absolutely. We do want to give you the chance to participate in Shameless Plug. You see all of your information scrolling across the bottom here. If you can let our viewers know how they can help you achieve or reach any goals that you may have. If you have any services they can patronize. If you have anything for sale, any projects or certain topics that you advocate for, groups you advocate for, anything that you want to put out for our viewers to check out, you have the floor.
Well, I offer group coaching as well as one-on-one coaching to help people execute and get to their goals. I also have a clothing brand called wearetherebirth.com. I also have a TED Talk coming up in September in Buckhead. Get some tickets, come show out some love. I also have an event coming up in October where I get a whole bunch of entrepreneurs in one room so we could get clear about their goals and actually get you to a point where you can actually get your business to where you want to get it.
Hey, you're on mute.
Look, I do that a lot. We want to please hold until we close out, Shamir.
Okay.
We want to thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences. Ain't that right, City Said?
That's right.
Yes. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube, Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. We have so many testimonies. And like Shamir, a lot of men don't talk, they don't get emotional. So this is definitely a testimony for any man that is struggling. Hopefully his testimony will be able to help you along your journey. Make sure you tune in to our YouTube each and every Monday at 8 p.m. and we will see you soon. Peace.